Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. Today I'd like to engage with you on some of the pertinent international issues of the day and then turn to my government's efforts in tourism development. Let me first extend my condolences to the people of France, particularly those who lost loved ones in the recent attacks in Nice on Bastille Day. Here in the British Virgin Islands, we are saddened by this tragedy and the loss of human life. In the United Kingdom, as you're aware, there has been a change in political leadership recently. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate the Right Honourable Theresa May on her appointment as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, as well as the appointment of the new Foreign Secretary, the Right Honourable Boris Johnson. I wish Prime Minister May and Foreign Secretary Johnson every success in office and look forward to a fruitful relationship with the new administration. Importantly, the relationship between the overseas territories and the United Kingdom is now more important than ever as Britain prepares to exit the European Union, which has been a part of for the past 43 years. As I have said in previous statements, the BVI can be a strategic asset to the UK in channeling investment into the British economy to support the nation in its efforts towards greater economic independence in the lead-up to and after Brexit. Thus, I'm looking forward to raising with the new UK Overseas Territories Minister the prospect of a new BVI-UK economic partnership. Tomorrow, I will travel to the Turks and Caicos Islands to join other overseas territories leaders at the pre-joint ministerial council hosted by my colleague, the Premier, Dr. the Honorable Rufus Ewing. There we will discuss overseas territories priorities for ministerial discussions with the United Kingdom later this year. Of course, Brexit is high on the agenda, and we are specifically concerned about how we will be involved in the UK negotiations with the European Union. The BVI and others benefit from the European Union, and the value of this relationship should be taken into consideration in any new arrangement between the EU and the UK. Also on the agenda is financial services. We will discuss the ways in which territories can address the offshore stigma by reinforcing to the global community that small international finance centers, such as the BVI, regulatory regime meets highest international standards and play an important role in the global economy. In the margin of the PGMC, the overseas territory leaders of the associate members of CARICOM, including the BVI, will have a special meeting with CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Erwin LaRocque to discuss our priorities and the overall CARICOM agenda, including a proposed Caribbean International Conference on correspondent banking and more general the OTA's ongoing relationship and engagement with CARICOM. I will now turn to tourism, a sector where we continue to make significant strides. Earlier this year, I announced that direct flights from the Virgin Islands to Miami and back will soon be available through the services of BVI Airways. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that we are on track, progressing well, and barring any unanticipated hiccups, I expect to see scheduled flights, direct flights to and from the United States mainland between the Terence B. Lethem International Airport and the Miami International Airport before Thanksgiving of this year. Direct flights as a game changer mean that we no longer be limited by our ability to participate in the global marketplace. Furthermore, direct flight means ease of passenger travels to a major international hub where direct flights from major metropolitan centers around the world can connect to flights directly to and from the British Virgin Islands. As I continue to discuss air access, I am pleased to inform you that on Friday, July 15th, Delta Airlines and Seabourn announced that they will begin selling their brand on Seabourn at San Juan to and from the British Virgin Islands effective September 7. This marks the first time in aviation history of the Caribbean that one airline will operate with the three major brands doing business in the Caribbean. Seabourn will now have code share agreements with American, Delta, and JetBlue, providing ease of access to the BVI through a powerful distribution and reservation network, as well as ticketing and baggage. The BVI is an important part of the seaboard network and important to their partner airlines. This will be coupled with new non-stop service by the BVI Airways, which is set to launch in the fall, increasing BVI's visibility in the tourism scape and helps with the accessibility challenges. This is indeed welcome news as we head into the season 2016-2017. On July 6, 2016, the territory received a well-deserved accolade from Travel and Leisure World's Best Awards. Virgin Gorda was selected as top island in the Caribbean. Each year for the past 21 years, travelers have turned to the Travel and Leisure audience to help them define excellence in travel. Travelers are asked to rate their recent experiences at hotels, on airlines and cruise ships, in cities and islands, and much more all over the world. For the last 3 years, Virgin Gorda has consistently achieved a top 5 ranking. This is a stellar accolade for the crown jewel of BVI tourism. With the commitment that my government has made to infrastructure development of our attractions, historical sites and beaches, coupled with investment from the private sector and commitment from the Virgin Gorda community, I must say that our tourism is on the rise. We are getting ready on the tourism front and improving our offerings. We have made a commitment to have new enhancements ready for the upcoming season. For example, we will continue to assist with the restoration of the St. Philip's Church and with improving the facilities of Smugglers, Long Bay, Bruce Bay, and King Garden Bay on Tortola. We will also be highlighting our history and culture in myriad ways through products such as the Queen Elizabeth Bridge Historic Toll Booth, the Coppermine Visitor Center, the old post office in North Sound, among others. Lastly, I'd like to speak about the comprehensive training program we have undertaken in partnership with the Disney Institute to provide a designed to ensure that guests to our territory receive a superlative guest experience. We are a year into this program, and I am pleased to announce that over 700 hospitality professionals have attended the BVI Guest Experience workshops. Additionally, over 40 BVI professionals have received their Master Training Certification to ensure territory-wide training. These trained professionals will now assist the BVI Tours Board with facilitating additional workshops. The overall objective is to have as many of our residents understand the importance of tourism and the guest experience. We are now seeking ways to take the program into all public and private schools. Last week, a delegation from the Disney Institute visited the territory to meet with different industry stakeholders and various members of government to discuss ways of further strengthening our tourism offering. We've all concluded that the BVI guest experience would form an integral part of our One BVI, BVI Forward, and One Government initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, I've highlighted a number of successes in tourism and financial services, two important sectors of this economy. My government will continue to do all we can to improve both sectors, and will work with the public in adding value to all sectors of the economy. I do thank you, and I'll be prepared to answer your questions, any question that you may have.
Malika McPherson from the Island Sun newspaper. In the official statement that you gave right after the Brexit vote results, you mentioned that government is considering its near and middle-term concerns as it relates to how this is going to affect the territory. And now you're going to the pre-GMC meeting. Would you be able to tell us what were some of the considerations or of the implications that might be expected? And would some of these be brought up with your fellow OT members, or it's something that government is quietly considering for an appropriate forum to come?
Yeah. It is really difficult and rather early to discuss what could happen, what can't happen, because Brexit has just begun. The serious negotiations won't start until later, maybe even in 2017. And so we really don't have an idea of what to expect. But we want to be able to assure the British government, and as we've spoken to the minister responsible, that BVI is, can continue to play an important role, as I said in the statement a while ago, in the United Kingdom's economy by helping to direct inward investments, as we've done in the past and we can continue to do.
You did not shy away from constitutional review comments that were made. While you did not agree wholeheartedly saying that this is something that's going to happen in the near future, you didn't basically slash the whole discourse. The former UK Overseas Territories Minister, Mr. James Doddridge, did go on record to inform the Cayman Islands Premier that this Brexit vote is an opportunity for the overseas territories to recalibrate their relationship with the UK, and this can be favorable in terms of some of the touchy topics that can be, or some of the requests that can be made to the mother country. Do you think that this is an appropriate moment now to go and consider discussing some of these constitutional amendment matters, or even a push for more autonomy? How do you view this?
We have been discussing the matter of reform of the Constitution now for some time, and I'm sure you've heard several of the members of the House of Assembly mention it. And we will continue to discuss those matters. When it is appropriate, we'll have the discussion with the United Kingdom. The last constitutional review was held in 2007. It came out when we did that review. We put together a team of people who had consultations throughout the territory, all the members of the community. That took about maybe a year, 9 months to a year. After that, there was further discussion, then debate in the House of Assembly, before we eventually made a representation to the United Kingdom to have discussion with them about the possible constitutional changes. I'm sure we'll be following the same format when we get to that point.
Melissa Edwards, BVI Platinum News. Honorable Mayor, in relation to the direct flights, can you say if BVI Airways has actually received all the necessary approval from the regulators? And secondly, you said before Thanksgiving, I know initially at the launch they had indicated October. So can you say if it's in October or November? Because it's a bit broad. October or November?
Yeah. The negotiations for all the necessary permits are ongoing between the British, the airline, and the airport authority, and also the regulator, that is ASI, right? But those are on track, and we expect to see no unforeseen. We expect no problems. We expect them to continue towards satisfactory arrangements. When it comes to the time of our beginning operation, the time schedule was October. There may be some slippage, maybe November, but we expect it to be, very close to the time that we originally spoke about.
Okay, and my second question is not what you any other topics you spoke on. In recent times, we now have a United Kingdom-based Commissioner of Police, United Kingdom-based prison head, and now we have a United Kingdom-based Director of Public Prosecution incoming. Pamela, are you in any way worried or concerned about this trend in terms of the security officers? Because I think it's only immigration and customs that we are seeing local person.
What in BVI, what we have been speaking about for a long time, which we engage now in, is succession planning, and that is a process that will help to ensure that as time goes by, the BVI landers will be more prepared to be able to fill this position where they're not now prepared. Remember, for example, in the case of the judiciary, there is a committee which is made up of local persons and the Chief Justice who make the selection based on the availability of persons qualified and their particular aptitude before they make the recommendations to the governor, and who usually take the advice of that committee.
So are you concerned? He did not answer that.
I am concerned, yes, that we are not at the point where we have the capacity to fill all these positions. But I'm also satisfied that we are making progress and that we are really engaged in succession planning so that we will be able to have persons ready to fill these positions when they become vacant.
Okay, and one other question. This is in relation to the airport project. Why is government not releasing all the studies? And my second question on the airport project, Deputy Premier and Natural Resources Minister, Honorable Dr. Kedrick Pickering, early in the year, said in the House of Assembly that by mid-July, August, they will have a selection of the company or the firm who will actually carry out the project, and then government will also announce the source of financing. Where are we with that?
Well, we're still in July. But the first question was, oh yes, we're still in July. They said July, August. But you know, there's the matter is still under consideration. We're still in discussions. So it's much too soon to be able to make a public statement at this point. Yeah.
The studies.
And what I'm saying, what studies? Yeah, what I'm saying is that we are still under discussions, and so it's much too soon to be able to make a public statement. We are getting close to that point, but as soon as we do, we'll be able to make that statement.
I was asking why is government not releasing all the studies?
Oh, I see. Oh, that's another matter, yeah. Those studies are being, I think, looked at again by the committees who are reviewing the project. And once we've completed all the review that we need to do, then everything will be made public.
So in July, August,
yes.
Ruben Stobie, Virgin Islands News Online. Sir, do you see Brexit as a possible opportunity for the overseas territories to renegotiate the beneficial overseas register issue?
That is something that
ownership. Sorry.
That is something that I cannot speak to at this moment. As you would realize, the government in the United Kingdom is just been announced. It's new, so we would not know at this point what their policies are. And they have just left the European Union. So again, the discussions will have to continue between the United Kingdom and the European Union. We have the assurance from the United Kingdom that the concerns and of the overseas territories will be taken in, you know, of course, held very much in consideration during these discussions.
Also, is there any deadline for BVI Airways to begin their service, and are there any penalties if they don't meet that deadline? Yeah,
there are some penalties built into the agreement, but as we were discussing earlier, the original time for the service to begin was in October, but we expect that will happen maybe in November. In whatever project that one undertakes, there's always a possibility of some changes, and it depends on what issues may arise during the discussions. But as I said earlier, it's very much on track, and we expect it to occur much before Thanksgiving.
Premier Smith, you mentioned that the Secretary General of CARICOM, Mr. Erwin LaRocque, will be present at the pre-JMC meeting. And I did note that Premier Rufus did indicate that that Mr. LaRocque was invited so that they can consider representation from CARICOM. The BVI has been an associate member of CARICOM, and one of the areas that the territory has held firm on was free movement. Now, if the other Caribbean OTs are considering a new arrangement or some possible future arrangement with CARICOM, would the BVI hold out on this end, or would you be willing to make some form of concession?
It depends on what you're speaking about. It's a new arrangement. I think part of the discussion with with CARICOM and the overseas territories. It revolves around the matter of correspondent banking, where we expect the CARICOM, who are making interventions on behalf of CARICOM members, will also be able to make interventions on behalf of the overseas territories. It also will, of course, discuss other matters involving the relationship between overseas territories and CARICOM, as just mentioned. And that discussion will be had. The BVI has a position because, as you know, the BVI has, from the point of view of travel of immigration, has a higher immigration than most of the other Caribbean territories who are speaking about free movement of travel.
The correspondent bank situation, the Hong Kong bank that the BVI was talking about sometime in terms of setting it up as a mitigating factor, how's that proceeding?
That is continuing, the discussions are continuing, it is proceeding. Yeah.
I just want to touch briefly on the PEER project. Can you tell us how soon the results, the finding from the audit will be known? And finally now, the cost to conduct the audit. We've been asking for months now. The costs on the go there.
Oh, the cost for the audit. I'll be able to send you the cost. Could you ask me about that later? My peers will be able to give you the cost of the audit. But the results will be known in the next maybe couple of months.
Before the end of the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. Connor Devitt with the BVI Beacon. I'm just wondering, in light of recent racial and police tensions in the United States, the government of the Bahamas issued a warning to its citizens, specifically young African-American males, to be careful in big American cities. I'm just wondering if you're planning on issuing a similar statement to the citizens of your territory.
No, we have not we have not had any discussion about issuing such a statement.
Premiers.
I'm done.
Premier, you did mention some of the co-share agreement and interline agreement and so forth, specifically the new arrangement with Seabourn and Delta. We have seen some of the other airlines that fly through the BVI, like Liat and Winair, also make partnership with some other major airlines. Is this an indication that the territory is slowly weaning from the relationship, or the reliance, I should say, with the USVI airport?
Not necessarily. It means that we are improving our options. It means that because of the link between Seabourn and the other airlines, that we have a greater possibility of better travel, improved access to BVI, because it means sharing means be having code sharing, being able to do the luggage transfer, and that sort of thing makes it easier for the passenger to travel, and this makes it more attractive to get to the British Virgin Islands.
Premier, I asked the question because tourism comes directly under your portfolio, and airlift has always been a concern for the past few years of the territory, and we are still working on getting the runway extended. We're going to be heading into a new season. Do you feel comfortable that everything possible has been done to improve the airlift situation for the new season that's coming?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, there's this sharing between Seabourn and the other three major airlines that will add to the possibility of people getting to the BVI much more easily. There will, of course, be the BVI Airways, which we are working on now, which we expect to begin service, which will have direct flights between Miami and the British Virgin Islands, that is Beef Island. There's also the flight that is going to be, there's a direct flight between the UK and Antigua, which will also help to facilitate British tourists who are coming from the UK directly. And so there are many opportunities for increased travel, which we have been looking at, which we've been working on, which will help the tourist arrival and help increase the tourism part sector of the economy.
Dr. O'Neill, during the last House of Assembly, he asked if some sort of concession can be provided for persons who were displaced from the closures in Virgin Gorda to seek, and if they do find employment on Tortola, to be able to commute. It was an open call, so I'm asking if any consideration has been provided.
We have been working with the the employees of Little Dixie Hotel as we work with the other employers, for example, from Byers Creek, and helping to get them placed into new jobs, new opportunities. And we are considering everything that is possible to be able to assist them. The matter of assisting with access to Tortola, this is something that we are also looking at. My ministry is doing whatever studies necessary to be able to determine what it means. And so we are looking into that as well.
And the final question, you did also mention the post office, but you said the old post office, but you said the one on Virgin Gorda. Did you mean the one on Tortola? And if so, what's the plan for the one on Main Street?
Yeah, the one I referred to was one in Virgin Gorda, the small old post office. It basically has some historical significance, and that is why I mentioned it. Just as for example, the old Queen Elizabeth Bridge has some historical significance, and we'll be doing some work there to be able to depict that significance, to make it something. Essentially what we're doing is creating more areas of interest for the persons who come to visit BVI, so we could improve their experience when they come here. One of the things I mentioned, for example, was the work that we're doing on the St. Philip's Church. We'll continue to assist in that work because we see that is also one of our significant historical sites which is being worked on.
A final question from you, sir. This is probably on the sports tourism as we speak in tourism. We had the Caribbean CUT Games last weekend. I understand a lot of countries were here, athletes from different countries and their followers, and there was a very competitive meet won by Jamaica. However, we received a lot of reports that the athletes and some of the followers were not pleased with the accommodation that they were given at the high school. We had a lot of calls from persons, especially from here, and there was a lot being said on social media about that. I'm wondering if you were aware of that and whether your government made any intervention.
Yes, I was aware that there were some concerns about the accommodation, and government was approached, and we made offers of assistance. Yes.
Recently, there have been some crimes that involve the use of guns. I know that this was a matter that was dealt with before, and some actions were taken in terms of legislative action. But do you think that a little more can be done? Are you going to be making an announcement? You've made addresses, you've addressed the matter. Are you going to be issuing a statement? What else do you think can be done to send a clear message? That's what I'm asking.
We have said from time and again that BVI government has zero tolerance as far as crime, especially gun-related crime, is concerned. And we reiterate that statement. However, I'd also like to say that we've now got a new police commissioner who has in hand and is sort of making plans to address the situation. He's well aware of what is going on in terms of criminal activity, especially where guns are concerned. He's well aware of that. And he's having his discussion with his officers to determine the best course possible. The matter, of course, will be discussed also at the National Security Council, where the members are also concerned and will be able to give input as we discuss the programs which the Commissioner will come up with.
Premier, can you indicate why works were stopped at Margaritaville at the Pier Park?
That is something that the Minister of Communications and Works has in hand. And I think there was some concern about some of the work, and he needed to basically take a step back and review what is going on before he continued to do work. Yeah.
Concerns about work at the site? the amount of work?
Yes, he had to get a grip of what was going on there. And once he's assured himself what is happening, and then, he'll make a determination where we go, yeah.
Okay, so the minister stepped in and works were halted?
No, the works have not been stopped. There is a pause, let us say. Right? Yeah. Because he needed to review the project and make an assessment himself of what is going on, whether he needed to maybe add or subtract or whatever. Yeah. Good. Okay, just one more.
Recently, CIBC closed several accounts for trust firms with ties to Panama. I'm just wondering if you think that bank is discriminating in light of the recent Panama Papers controversy with any trust firms with ties to Panama.
We've had discussions with the banks about that matter, and we've been assured that is a matter of risk. All the banks are now looking at the risk when dealing with whatever accounts that they've got to deal with, and they're making a decision based on that. Okay. Well, thank you very much.